Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. As you can tell, we're out in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and we're going to be doing some long-range shooting, specifically today with my 16-inch 308. This is a Palmetto State Armory Bear Creek Arsenal 308. It's a very inexpensive build, but today we're going to be stretching it out to about 500 yards. Really quickly on the setup, we have a UTG AccuShot 1:8. That's our optic of choice. Not a whole lot of magnification, but enough to get the job done. 16-inch barrel, 1-in-10 twist. The ammo type of choice that we're using for today is Magtech or Federal Premium Sierra Matchking 168 grain. I've had really good luck with that ammunition into MOA, sometimes sub MOA if I'm doing my part. Everything else on here is pretty standard Mil-Spec trigger, so nothing really special going on with the gun. But today we're going to be shooting at about 500 yards and having a good time. There's not much wind out. It is very cold. It's about 28 degrees right now. But we're going to zero it real fast. Zeroing distance for this guy is 50 yards, just because that's kind of a very flat trajectory for it, out to about 250, 300. And that's what I did my calculations with. And I do also have some offhand calculations. I used the Hornady Ballistics app to get a pretty good idea of what it's going to be doing at about 500 yards, using kind of reputable data from this length of barrel and the ammunition type and all that sort of good stuff. So it's a good ballpark of what's going to be going on, but I also have a notepad, and we're going to be out here until we hit something at 500 yards. Have plenty of ammo, so we're going to go ahead and zero this guy at 50 yards, like I said, drive back out to about 500, 450, 500, and then shoot back down again for the 500 yard shot. So let's go ahead and just get into it. So right now we're actually using the back of a 2000 Ford Explorer as a perch. It's a very stable platform, doesn't move around a lot, and there's really no wind out, so I'm not worried about being bumped around at all. We're shooting at 50 yards, and this perch works really well just because it gets you a couple feet off the ground and makes it easier for you to take some shots. So we're going to go ahead. I'm zeroing it right now just to get it on paper and close with some Wolf 145, and then we'll put in the Sierra Matchking, of course, to actually do the real zeroing on it. But this is just to get it on paper so I don't waste a lot of the very expensive ammunition. All right, round in the chamber, 50 yards. Using a couple of Caldwell shooting bags that I've had really good luck with. All right. All right, let's see. So I am about 6 inches low and left. So let's just get it up. I'm not worried about incredible precision right now, just because of course we all are just zeroing it. So I'm going to bring it up a little ways, bring it right a little ways. Okay. All right. Alright, we are dead center. Now let's bring it up to 12. Now once we get close, we'll actually shoot groups with it. I just need to get it close first. Alright. Alright, so we are very close. So I'm going to go ahead and swap over to Sierra Matchking now. It's 2 inches low, which is just fine. I'm not sure how the Sierra Matchking works in comparison. I know that it does come out a little differently, so the zero is going to shift. So be very careful, get it on. It tracks, this UTG scope tracks extremely well for the money. I think I own 2 of them now, and I think I paid $134 for both. Each, that is, not in total. Alright, so this is way more than enough to zero this guy in there. Alright. Just low and left. And we should be pretty much on. Mostly what I'm worried about is the horizontal zero, because vertical is much easier to compensate for than horizontal, of course. one more. It's just hairs off. I'm not sure if we can get any tighter with that. I might move it one more right. I mean, it's just... Alrighty, so it is zeroed at 50 yards, and there you go. Took what, 4 rounds of Wolf and 3 of Sierra Matchking, and it's on. That last little group just moved exactly where I wanted it to. Shot 2 right on top of each other, and then 1 just slightly off to the right. So we are all good now there. Put those guys back in the Sierra Matchking box, and move on to another gun. I do have a bunch of guns out here that I'm zeroing, of course. Alrighty, so as you can see out there, we have 3 10-inch steel plates set up at approximately, Google Maps says it's about 450, but I don't think that takes into account elevation, so we're probably looking anywhere between 450 and 500, plus or minus a little bit. Let me zero you guys all the way out. So this is how far we're shooting from back here behind us in the Explorer. And of course, we're going to start out with the 16-inch AR-10 with 168 grain Sierra Matchking. And let's go ahead and get to it. Alrighty, so while I'm getting this guy loaded up, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the methodology for taking this shot. So, about 500 yards, give or take 25, 30, somewhere in that range. And then, of course, most of the other data that I have is kind of ballpark. So it's generally should be in the correct area for a 16-inch AR-10. I have these cheat sheets here for different guns that I have out with me today. This one's for the 16-inch 308, so we're going to use that guy for this, which again, I'm just using it to get in the ballpark. Now, without a spotter, this can be more difficult to see where your bullets are landing, where you need to adjust to, what the wind is doing. Fortunately, right now, there's almost no wind, so that really shouldn't be too much of an issue. We are shooting over a bit of a canyon, so it'll change as we shoot out there, of course. Everything else should be pretty close. So right now, this is saying if I go with 450, I should be 9.5 MOA up. So I can pretty easily just do that with these guys. I did reset these, so they are 0 resettable turrets. And now I'm at 9. So I am 9 up on this guy. So we have, again, 168 grain Sierra Matchking ammunition. And we're just going to take a shot at one of our 3 steel targets out there and see if we're even on close. Now, I have the advantage of having a camera with a 720mm lens, so that means I can watch the bullet's impact when I'm not having it focused on me, of course, so I can actually see where they're hitting, so I can use my camera as a spotter versus actually having a spotter here. It is easier with a spotter, but if you have a high zoom camera, you can do the same thing with that. So let's go ahead and take a shot, 800 yards. Let's go that guy. So I'm gonna aim dead center. I'm not doing any holds for wind. The wind is going left, so it's going right to left. Should put another one over there, see if I can. Ooh. You can kind of watch it through the scope too. I think I might be a little low. Nope, that one that was high. So I actually probably over adjusted a little bit. So I'm actually hitting high above the target. I just saw where that last one impacted. So I'm actually going to probably have to aim like bottom edge target. Just right. Bam! 500. Again, that's with no no wind measuring thing, no perfect distance measuring thing, all ballparks, 4 rounds, 5 rounds, and you're in there. No spotter, nothing. I just basically eyeballed. I could see where they're hitting in there, and now I know exactly where they're at. Let's see if that's repeatable though. Very easy. I'm aiming one target left and low at 500. So I basically ballparking it that the wind is moving over a little bit and to have the MOA is actually a little too high. So I'm actually gonna back off to 8 on this guy. So for whatever reason, and I'm shooting a little downhill, which does affect it as well, which is probably why I was a little bit high, because I have it set for flat, but of course this isn't flat. There's probably 100 feet of drop in here as well, so it's gonna make your zero or your distance change a little bit, but that was pretty easy, 500 yards. Now, this is a different brand. This is Federal Premium versus Magtech 168 Sierra Matchking. When I'm zeroing these guns, I zero them interchangeably because I don't notice any difference in loading. So you might, your mileage may vary, so don't take my results as gospel, because again, this is all just kind of ballpark stuff. So we're gonna load up 3 more. See if I can get it with this, and then I will flip the camera around, and if I'm hitting it, I'm being consistent with it, I will show you guys, and you guys can kind of watch the bullets drop in for impact. So now I'm gonna just be holding one target right, like a half target right, so dead center, so I'm like 5 inches off to the left of the target. Kind of compensating for wind. It's very mild. Bam! And again, I would say I'm just left and low of the target, still just left and low just a little bit. I'm not even gonna worry about the scope right now. It's hitting. So as long as it's repeatable and it's not really moving, let's try it again. Thunk. Like I said, this guy's a tack driver. At 500 yards right now, little to no wind, of course. This is it's important to mention that there's no wind. I'm gonna try it with a couple more. And let's see if this guy's just gonna tack drive all 5 of these, 5 in a row, or 4 in a row, something like that. But I mean, yeah, honestly, very, very crisp, clean. The trigger on this is just a Mil-Spec trigger. It does have a Strike Industries reduced recoil or reduced power springs. So what that does is it makes it much lighter trigger, a much smoother trigger. Personally, it's not good if you're running steel ammo or other things, if you need to use it for a military type application, because sometimes you're going to get a light primer strike. It's just going to happen. But for a Mil-Spec trigger, it's about as smooth and crisp as you can get. So, and it's cost $8. So for doing stuff like this, for plinking long range stuff with a Mil-Spec trigger, super cheap, super easy, makes it a lot easier to shoot. And again, this isn't prone, this isn't, you know, on the ground. This is in an Explorer that moves around a little bit. So it's still, it's pretty stable, but it's not the absolute perfect ideal setup for this. The bags are really good. This is what I practice with. Let's load this guy. No joy. Bam. So, not sure what happened with that first one. Just variations in the ammo. You are still at 500 yards. Still, just a tack driver though. I mean, I could probably very easily hit, if I had a full magazine, it didn't have to break to do all that sort of thing, I could probably hit, you know, 5, 6, 7 in a row. Again, just a very accurate, very simple gun. Let's flip it around. I have a lot of this ammo. I have like 4 more boxes of this stuff. So let's go ahead and flip it around and you guys can watch what I'm doing. There we go. That was aiming directly underneath. The wind shifted a little bit, obviously. There we go, 2 in a row right at the end. So wind shifted, obviously. I went from aiming bottom left of target to aiming just directly underneath it. Not a big deal. Just kind of, you have to adjust to it as it changes. Alrighty, so there you have it. 500-ish yards. Once again, this is mostly just ballpark type stuff. You know, nothing super high tech, nothing fancy. Kind of just like the rifle itself. This is I bought the original rifle in its original form for like $479 or $549 or something like that. Very, very inexpensive. I put in a $60 16-inch barrel, which is a little bit shorter, a little bit heavier than the 18-inch that originally came with it. We have a $134 optic on top, and we didn't have any sort of range finders. We didn't have any sort of ballistic computers other than the Hornady app, which is very helpful, very easy to get in the ballpark of where you need to be. So the first thing I did with it was take my cheat sheet, say what it should be at 500, which is 9.4 MOA. So I dialed in 9 in the beginning, so it's probably a little bit under 500 yards. But we're also shooting downhill, so I know that affects it a little bit. So the first thing I did, dial in the MOA, see where it's hitting. With this guy here, the way it recoils, very soft with the very, it's like 3.5 to 5 inches of eye relief. The eye box on here is very forgiving, so you're actually able to get back into the box and see before the target hits, so you can actually see where you're impacting at 500 yards, which is really cool. I really like the optic. It seems to track very, very accurately. I mean, almost no adjustments at 500 yards, with almost no experience shooting that far as well. So incredibly easy. The ammunition on that is, of course, 168 grain Sierra Matchking. This barrel is MOA or sub MOA in all of my testing. With the right load, it really likes 168 grain Sierra Matchking. So really accurate, really easy to do, really fun to shoot out long range. I am fortunate to have a place like this in the Pacific Northwest, about 20-25 minutes from where I live. Now, the issue for a lot of people is going to be finding areas to shoot this far. Now, if you live in somewhere where it's flat, like Utah or somewhere in the Midwest, you can shoot pretty much as far as you want, of course. But for my location, 500 yards, you really have to search for. Like, there's a few spots here and there within 100 miles of me that I can go that are, you know, public access, or I'm allowed to go pretty much without trespassing on somebody else's property, where I can shoot this far. And if you have one of those locations, I mean, it's kudos to you. It's not a super easy thing to find in the Northwest. Everything's covered in trees. The only reason this is like this at all is because, of course, this was once logged, and right now there's still open access to it. So right now, taking advantage of it, you could theoretically push the targets out a little bit further. There's a secondary hill behind where I was shooting, but then there's really not much of a backstop, and then if you shoot rounds over, they're kind of going for a mile. So I like to do this. You could probably theoretically, though, move further back up this hill, go 700, 800 yards, maybe in total. But as it is, 500 yards with the Palmetto State Armory / BCA AR-10, 16 inches, with nothing special. I mean, the entire AR in its current configuration costs about $900, maybe $850, $900, and you can definitely remove some of the other stuff on here that's not helping you at this range. So for a very fun target gun, for a close range, mid-range, and even like this 500 yards, most people probably consider that long range, not ultra long range like some guys who do 1,000-yard shots and mile shots, that sort of thing. But for what most people do, very accurate, very consistent. Once you're doing your part, and once you know what's happening with the wind and the drop and all that sort of stuff, you're pretty much good to go. So very fun. Definitely will be doing more of this. I have a bunch of other guns with me right now, so I'm just going to go right into my 12.5-inch AR-10. So that video will probably be posted after this one, which will probably be a little bit more difficult just because of the short barrel. You're dealing with a lot more drop. The wind's going to affect it more. The wind has actually started to pick up a little bit more, so that'll be pretty interesting. So, but we're going to go ahead and say that this is pretty awesome for a excellent AR-10 battle rifle package. It is a tack driver. It's very accurate, very consistent. Like I said, sub MOA keeps its accuracy out to 500 yards. Where I live, I'm never going to need to take a 500-yard shot. I mean, 200, 300, which is again why I have the 50-yard zero. Because with this guy at a 50-yard zero, in between like 0 and 300 yards, there's only, well, like 250. There's only like 6 inches of movement up or down. So pretty much you hit what you're aiming at anywhere from 0 to 250, 275, kind of in that range. So really like the gun. It's an awesome package. Don't really have much bad to say about it. I've had really good luck with all BCA barrels. So thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace off.
Hey you. Yeah, you. What are you still doing here? The video's over. Wait. Why are you still here? Like, share, and subscribe. Or don't. The choice is yours. But if you do subscribe, thanks. And I like pizza. Peace off.